Welcome to Sports Econ 101. For those of you joining our show, imagine a few guys sitting around a bar without the drinks talking sports and business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-hosts, well-known sports radio personality Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco. And on this show, we discuss sports from a business perspective. In addition, we'll ask sports trivia questions where we're giving away vacations to the first three callers with the correct answer. Our phone number is 888-660-4495. Write that number down, 888-660-4495, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. And today's trivia theme is baseball rules of the game. Do you think you know baseball? See if you can answer these questions. And on today's show, we're going to have a special guest, Mike Zaidlin, who's going to discuss sports memorabilia with us. In addition, we're going to talk about Kobe Bryant's parents selling some of his memorabilia. Strong basketball and football players, they can bench how much? Most popular NFL jerseys for the fans. Right now, Colin Kaepernick is number 1. Yasiel Puig is being sued for $12 million. We'll find out why. Will Hill of the New York Giants suspended again for substance abuse, and he's only 23 years old. Dustin Pedroia, is he really worth $100 million? And this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by IRA Services Trust Company, providing self-directed retirement accounts with more choices, diversification, and among the lowest fees in the industries. Now, I have personally used them for my personal diversified IRA, so they've got really the lowest fees in the industry. I kid you not. Check them out at IRA Services, and make sure you don't touch that dial, because when we come back, we're going to start in right with our guest, Mike Zaidlin. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn.
Hey,
and Bruce McGowan isn't here yet, but I'm sure he'll show up. We have a guest today, Mike Zaidlin, who's going to discuss sports memorabilia with us. Mike, take it away. How did you get involved with sports memorabilia?
Well, I think it just came from being a huge baseball fan when I was a kid. Probably, like most kids who get into baseball, I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And of course, growing up here, I was a huge Giants and A's fan. And, at that time, collecting wasn't something I did other than baseball
cards. Remember how you doing that, putting in the spokes and everything?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't do that anymore.
No, we realize that. Now, the audience can't see this, but you brought in some shirts, and one of them here looks like an old New York Mets uniform, but it's not.
Right.
Explain that to us.
Right. That's actually a New York Giants, precursor to the San Francisco Giants uniform from the World War II era. It's actually from 1942, and I believe from the 20s on to today, the Giants have always had orange and black colors. But for this period of about 5 years during World War II and maybe for a year or two afterwards, as an act of patriotism, they switched to red and blue colors. And that's why those are the only Giants uniforms you'll ever see with those colors. It just happened for a very short time. And then they switched back to orange and black again.
But it looks like New York Mets. It actually looks like a current New York Mets uniform.
Yeah, you looked at a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, that's a Mets.
That's a Mets uniform, yeah.
Exactly.
Looks like they continued on with that.
Yeah, and as you notice, all these uniforms from before the 30s and 40s are all this very heavy wool, which must have been unbearably hot to wear in the summer in New York City and places like St. Louis. And then in the early 70s, the uniforms became much lighter polyester.
Well, before you came back in, Mike and I were talking about how, you remember the Houston Colt 45s?
That's right.
But that was before the Astrodome. Can you imagine playing in Houston? How the weather, and I can't imagine.
In the dead of summer.
Yeah, they must have been
nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Must have been wearing T-shirts then. And you have an Oakland A's uniform here that looks like a cut-off T-shirt.
Yeah, they were the best style, and the best style of uniforms was worn by the A's for just, I think, 1 year in 1968, their first season, and it's pretty rare. Although I think that style, the best style, was worn by a couple teams in the 50s and maybe early 60s, but it's pretty much been discarded since.
And I told Mike, it reminds me of Ted Kluszewski from the Cincinnati Reds. Remember, he used to have the cutoff of the sleeves? Okay. You know what? There's a couple of things here I was looking at online. And, okay, what is the most expensive memorabilia? Anyone?
Well, I gotta think it's the Roger Hornsby baseball card. I would think.
Oh, you mean Honus Wagner?
I mean Honus Wagner. Yeah.
Actually, that's third.
Really?
Yeah. Mark McGwire's 70th home run ball went for $4.3 million. It's not. That's amazing. And the thing is, what about Bond's 70? What was it? 76 home runs?
73.
73 home runs. There we go. Of course, with the steroids and all that.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
well,
not worth it.
and I remember that ball went for about 750,000.
Yeah.
Probably largely because of the steroid issue.
Yeah.
But I think, Edward, that a Babe Ruth uniform just sold for $4.4 million in the last month or two.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
And
that's right.
That's the all-time sports record.
That one is okay because a Babe Ruth bat went for $1.3 million.
What would a Babe Ruth signed ball go for? I wonder.
Well, okay, now
Funny you should mention.
you mentioned. Okay, tell him the story that you were telling me about teams.
Well, it's really interesting. If you got a baseball signed by Babe Ruth and only by Babe Ruth, that ball would probably be worth a lot more than if you got a ball signed by Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle, or as well as more than what the entire team would have been worth if it had his signature as well. And that's because there's a certain desire among collectors, high-end collectors, who basically say, I want just that player on that ball and no one else. And a lot of times they are only interested in that player. Or they're trying to build a collection of Hall of Fame baseballs, each signed by a particular player.
It's interesting you say that because, the Yankees of Babe Ruth's era for most of his career was filled with future Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
so
right.
if you're a kid and you've got one ball, you're trying to get as many Yankees as you can to sign that ball.
Exactly, and maybe that's part of the reason that it's so hard to find a ball from that era that's just signed by Babe Ruth, because a ball was a valuable thing, and most kids were lucky if they could have one baseball, and they weren't going to just waste it on one autograph.
Why don't they take a permanent marker and just scratch out the other guys? Does that work?
I think scratches degrade the value of the ball.
Oh, okay. What about
speaking of the value of the ball? Let's go modern day. Let's just use, for the sake of example, Willie Mays. Willie Mays is known as the greatest living ball player. Yeah. But I'm wondering if a Mays signed ball is more valuable while he's alive or after he's gone, I wonder.
Well, because he's alive, there's no end to how much supply there can potentially be.
Okay.
Sure.
And so it's usually, unfortunately, the value goes up after the player has passed away, because now everybody knows how many, that there won't be any more. And Willie Mays has been around for so long and has signed so many baseballs that I think you could probably get one for a few $100s.
Does that mean an Edward Brown used microphone would be more valuable after he's gone?
Oh, wait. Don't be talking about while I'm gone. My wife doesn't like that too much. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, so we got a Honus Wagner card for $1.2 million. If you remember, Wayne Gretzky had purchased it for $750,000 or something, and then he resold it. Muhammad Ali's boxing gloves, $1.1 million.
Wow.
A Babe Ruth 1920 sale contract, $996,000. Now here was Ruth's World Tour uniform in 1934, $771,000.
Yeah, because back in those days, after the season, he and Gehrig and a bunch of his buddies, would just go to Japan and just play a bunch of pickup games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, and salaries were so low back then that even players like Dizzy Dean would make $20,000 a year, would start barnstorming in the off season and make 10.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine back then? I mean, you're playing these are like 1-year contracts. Can you imagine a guy like that having to sing for something just at the end of every year, just to try to get $2,000, maybe $3,000 more to your contract?
Yeah.
Well, I heard Alex Rodriguez is going to start waiting tables because.
Okay. Hey, and speaking of, how much has the value dropped for anything signed or owned by Ryan Braun?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. Let me just finish off a couple of things here. I thought it was interesting. Shoeless Joe bat, $580,000.
Hmm.
And I guess Black Betsy, that's what it was called. Kirk Gibson. Now, gee, what would he have signed, or what was his famous
Funny, I
bat?
just saw him just a few days ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still hate that 1988. Actually, you know what? It was good for baseball.
It was good.
It was good for baseball. Lou Gehrig's Yankee uniform, $450,000, and then Bobby Jones' green jacket, $310,000.
From the Masters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's baseball signed by Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, wow.
$191,000. And Buckner's Nightmare Baseball. The one went through his legs, $100,000.
Wow.
You know, it's funny, Edward, that you mentioned the Wayne Gretzky Honus Wagner card, because I think that's the card that was later discovered to have been artificially trimmed.
Oh, really?
And, yes, that's what gave it its mint appearance.
Okay, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here, and again, the theme is baseball rules of the game. You think you know baseball? Okay, here we go. What is the minimum number of umpires needed for a game? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay.
Not regulation, but how few they could actually play a game with.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rules. Now we're not talking Little League. We're talking Major League Baseball.
Okay. All right.
Okay? What is in the rule book? There's a rule book. What is the minimum number of umpires that are needed for the game? Okay. First three callers win a 3-day with the correct answer. Win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. What is the minimum number of umpires that are needed for a game, regulation game? 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Good. And these questions are going to get a little harder.
Wow, and that's not an easy one
No,
right out of the gate.
I looked at some of the older episodes on YouTube. You were asking some pretty tough questions there, asking what decade nobody hit 50 home runs.
Yeah.
That was a good one. That
That's
was a good one.
almost unfair.
Well, you know, it's so funny. I think maybe I told you guys a story. When I was doing the KMBR thing, I came up with this idea of the sports trivia questions. And so I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to ask something so hard, no one's going to get it, right? And that'd be kind of fun. Well, I asked a question that was so hard, we only got like 3 calls, and these people were like way off. And then I realized, I go, stupid. I should do the opposite. I want people to call and get me right. So I get on the air next week, and I said, last week we asked a question that was way too hard. So this week we're going to ask an easier one. Super Bowl III, Jets versus Colts. Who was the quarterback of the Jets? And wait a minute, here's a hint. His name rhymes with Glow Baymouth. The thing, the switchboard just went bang!
Oh, sure.
That was funny.
Lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, yeah. I cracked up so hard I had to literally get out of the room so they wouldn't hear me.
Well, it's great sitting next to you after I've seen you on TV so many times.
Yeah, you're the one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Albert's a good guy. I don't know where Brucey is, though.
Well, they got the real stars here, right?
That's true.
Of all the shows Bruce should be here,
I know,
this is the one.
Yeah, we love this stuff. And I wanted Mike to stay because he knows a lot about sports and baseball, and it'd be kind of fun to just sort of, hang out.
Are you primarily baseball member?
Well, and that's really the extent of it. I just kind of was always into it. I mean, I love any old baseball thing,
The same way.
but especially Giants stuff.
Oh, guess
It's really
this.
hard to find it. My
I
wife would let me buy it.
Yeah. I asked him, one time you and I were just conversing, and I mentioned, if I remember correctly, it was Ed Delahanty. I go, have you ever heard of even him? And he gives me a story about him. And I could look it up, and it's true.
There you go.
Like I said, a misspent youth.
Yeah.
So, can I tell you?
Okay.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Yeah, go ahead.
You
No, go.
guys, I was going to, I don't know, in 1971, I had a friend, and he went to Fan Appreciation Day at the Oakland Coliseum. And this is how farm and rural-oriented it was. They let kids come out of the stands and try to catch greased pigs. Okay? I mean, the animal rights people would have okay, they greased up some pigs, and they would let kids run out.
It's Charlie Finley, man. He's
Charlie
trying to
Finley.
come up with any kind of...
Everything was an animal. A mule. The mechanical rabbit that popped up and gave the umpire baseballs. Do you remember that? In '68, there was right behind home plate, a mechanical rabbit would pop up dressed in an Oakland uniform and the umpire would
Save that for this is fun stuff. I like this.
Good material.
Yeah, I like this. Okay, we hit our question first. This is, yeah. Oh, and just make sure that you're just a little closer. Otherwise, I have to keep turning you up. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and our guest, Mike Zaidlin. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What is the minimum number of umpires needed for a baseball game?
For a Major League Baseball game.
Major League Baseball game. Go ahead, yes.
Standards 4, I'm going to go...
And in the playoffs, it's 6, right?
Yeah. They could probably get it done with 2.
What do you say?
Anything I say would be a guess, but I'll guess 3.
The answer is 1. All you need is just 1 for a league game, right? If I'm the umpire, I'm going to stand right behind the pitcher,
wow,
call balls and strikes, and then turn around and get all the bases. Okay, we've been talking sports memorabilia here, and Mike, you had a couple of fun stories about. Now, this is a national show. However, I think it's just fun radio to talk about, like the Oakland Coliseum, because in the East Bay it was very rural back in '68. Go ahead, tell us a couple of stories.
Well, I was saying that back in the late '60s, the East Bay was such a rural area that Charlie Finley, the owner of the A's, who was such a promoter, came upon the idea of having farmers' nights where you would milk cows at the Oakland Coliseum and try to win tickets for games. And then he had Charlie O the mule, and then he had, as Vern was saying, an elephant out there, and then the mechanical rabbit that popped up behind home plate to give the umpire balls. And I went to a game with my best friend in 1971 on Fan Appreciation Day, and as part of the Fan Appreciation festivities, they opened the gates to the field and picked about 50 kids to run out on the field and try to catch greased pigs.
I'm sure PETA didn't mind at all.
PETA was not around, as far as I know. Maybe that's why PETA was formed.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was almost impossible to catch these greased pigs, as you can imagine. But my friend possessed that skill set. He was a 5-tool player, so he caught the greased pig.
He caught one.
He caught one, and he won season tickets right behind home plate for the 1972 season.
That's awesome.
It is
a World Series winning year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I missed that whole year of high school.
Yeah, I bet.
Wow.
I got a question about the mechanical rabbit. When it pops down, does it completely come underneath so that you don't have to worry about a catcher running into it and that sort of thing?
Well, it disappeared below ground level.
They learned that after Mickey Mantle hurt his knee in the
right.
In
tripping over the sprinkler.
Exactly. Okay, speaking of memorabilia still, I looked up on the internet here and I found an article that talked about Kobe Bryant items brought in big money in an auction that ended early Saturday morning. A duplicate of his 2000 Los Angeles Lakers championship ring, gifted to his father Joe, sold for $174,000, and a version of the smaller ring to his mother that went for $108,000. So apparently his family.
Yeah, they got issues.
They got issues.
Kobe and his mom. Yeah.
And what about the dad? Is that an issue too?
I don't know about the issue with Jelly Bean, but the mom, that's the big one. I mean, because he had all this memorabilia stored in a storage unit. He just kind of forgot about it, and the mom's like, "Well, hey, let's get this stuff out," and he didn't do anything about it. So the mom wanted to sell it, and then that's where the trouble began.
Well, I wonder whether they were gifts to her that he decided to sell, or she decided to sell. Oh, well, that one's kind of tough. Okay, a couple other popular items here I thought was kind of interesting. A Jackie Robinson bat was believed to have been used in his 1949 MVP season, which, if I remember correctly, was the first time they actually had Rookie of the Year. Was 1949?
I cannot confirm that.
No, 47 when he started. That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. 49 was his MVP year. 47 was his rookie year.
First year.
And that was the first time they had Rookie of the Year. $160,000 for that. A mitt used
I would think more.
Yeah, I would think. Well, that was not his rookie season, but it was MVP. Maybe that was the reason. A mitt used by Yogi Berra, $61,000, and a pair of Air Jordan sneakers autographed to Mike Tyson for $9,000. I thought that was kind of fun. Okay, I'm going to move on here to something completely different. Strongest NBA basketball players, because I was looking online and I saw something about Dwight Howard, how strong he was.
Well, have you seen his body? My gosh, he's cut.
He is, but if you watch a video, it's kind of funny because some people make some comments on it and again, I'm not putting anything past that he's a strong guy, but they were talking about him benching, like 375 pounds, and if you look at the plates, there's a 45, and then there's something small, and then there's another 45, and then the other side's the same thing. So they're giving you the impression it's 345s, but it ain't. So anyway, I thought, okay, let me look this up here a little bit. So Ben Wallace.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Wallace is strong. Okay.
Big shot blocker.
Big shot blocker. He can bench over 460 pounds, and he does curls 100 pounds in each arm.
Well, I mean, have you seen him? He's a tank.
He is a tank. And little Earl Boykins. Now they're talking pound for pound. He's 5'5", 135 pounds. Point guard is the strongest pound per pound basketball player. He can bench press 315 pounds.
Jeez.
That's amazing. I mean, that's what, 2.5 times his weight.
I don't think I've lifted that much collectively in my entire life.
They said if Shaq were to bench the same proportion to his weight, he'd be able to bench over 730 pounds. I thought that was funny. Okay, so then moving on to the strongest NFL players. And I remember Manny Fernandez being able to bench like 575 pounds back in the 70s. For those of you who don't remember, he used to play for the Dolphins, part of the...
Number 75.
Number 75,
yep.
Yeah, the no-name defense, right? Now, I don't know Casey Hampton, Steelers nose tackle.
I'm giving you a blank stare, a radio version of a blank stare.
Okay. He regularly benches 600 pounds and squats over 800 pounds. That's pretty amazing. Okay. They said, when God built a nose tackle, he built Casey Hampton. Sam Rayburn, one of the NFL's biggest bruisers, Dolphins defensive tackle Sam Rayburn is known around the league for squatting 960 pounds and benching 225 pounds 38 times. I don't even know if I could lift my arms 38. I'm a strong guy, for my size, but just lifting your arm 38 times is kind of amazing.
That'll help him fill the A gap.
Yeah, I would say so. Can you imagine going up against a guy like that, just knowing what he can do, just kind of pick you up and toss you to the side?
And he runs the 40 and 4.0.
Does he?
Oh,
That's the amazing thing.
Some of these guys. So
that's the amazing.
Scary.
The speed of the game is just light years ahead of even your top college programs. I mean, you got linemen just flat out just getting after it. It's unbelievable.
Larry Allen, right?
Yeah.
He played for Cowboys and the Niners.
Yeah, finished up with the Niners. In fact, his son is a star lineman for De La Salle.
Yeah, they're kind of known for their football, aren't they?
De La Salle.
Yeah. A professional team.
Yeah.
Well, Did you know they're making a movie out of the story of Bob Ladouceur? In fact, for the audience listening, De La Salle is a storied high school football program based in the East Bay in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they most known for having a 151 consecutive win streak. Well, a motion picture is being made on that era, and Jim Caviezel, an actor who played Passion of the Christ,
yeah.
he's on a CBS show called Person of Interest. Anyway, he's playing Bob Ladouceur.
Who's the coach?
Who's the head coach?
Okay.
Who just retired.
Wow. The thing is, when you have a situation like that, they're recruiting, because they are a private school, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So
technically, yes.
Okay. When I was a kid, private schools had no sports at all. They just, because nobody could afford the money, to afford them. Nowadays, it's sort of a recruiting type thing. So if you're pretty good, you want to go to
the top programs.
Yeah. So
and they get the top kids.
Exactly. So they're kind of only going to get better unless they change what rules or how can you do that?
Well, when we were growing up, private schools were really exclusive kinds of schools.
Yeah.
Now I think they're more mainstream and common and more likely to have good sports teams. When we were growing up, it was only really the academically quote gifted that probably went to private schools. The public schools were considered to be where you went.
Or the 3R school. Remember that?
Oh yeah. All too well, Edward.
and you can even take that even further for even like a summer league like rec program. If you got a kid in irregardless of the sport that plays the sport year round, and then they go and play rec league, then they're going to be the most dominant person in the rec league. So
That's a good point.
yeah.
No, I like that. Okay. I'm going to move on here a little bit. Most popular NFL jersey. Who is that right now?
Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick. I wonder if his jersey comes with the tattoos.
I didn't. Well, yeah.
Hasn't he switched to baseball?
Those would be self-inflicted. He was a top prospect coming out of Turlock, California. He threw in the '90s routinely.
Did he? Oh,
Yeah.
that's right, he did.
He was drafted.
Okay, we're going to get into more of the jerseys in just a minute. We are going to cut to our second commercial break. This one's hard. Okay, ready?
I thought the last one was hard.
this one to me is even harder. Okay, and again, we're talking baseball here because the theme is, you sure you know baseball rules? A team is behind 5-7 when the other team forfeits. Right? So this is the winning team that's forfeiting, maybe because people got sick or whatever.
Winning team's ahead 7-5.
And the winning team forfeits. Okay? What is the final score? What's the official final score? Okay, so again, a team is behind 5-7.
After how many innings?
So it doesn't say, but I think
it's over 5 innings. So it's an official game.
It's an official game. Okay. First 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day 2-night stay at Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. A team is behind 5-7 when the other team forfeits. What is the final score? Again,
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Call 888-660-4495. You know, some of these I should just make up. No one would know the answer, and I could just give any answer I want. But no, this is true. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, and spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
Man,
I think it's 9-0.
that's a tough one.
You are
Whoa!
Is it?
Wow! Really?
I just
Wow!
remember that from a forfeit a long time ago. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well,
I would have thought maybe 1.
So they erase the score and then
or
just boom, it's 9.
5 or something.
Wow.
Very good.
But that brings up the question of, well, then how did they account for the runs?
Yeah, that's a good. Okay,
But
let's
they all
put it
have
up.
to balance.
And
the scores,
what
the
does
runs,
what does it mean for your stats? Let's say you've gone 3 for 4, and
See all this for the show. I'm ready to go.
okay. All right.
Wow, there's plenty of material. We can get into
We'll
personal
get it.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I read that the 40-yard dash in pro football, the 2 fastest times still to this day are Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders.
That would not surprise me at all.
Top 5 or something, which is a long time ago that they did that.
Yeah,
That's
because you'd think that guys would be faster, but
Yeah, I think Deion was number 1.
of course, 40 yards back then was only 25 yards. So they didn't have 40 yards. Couldn't count that.
Wow.
No, Bo Jackson is amazing because he was powerful too. Deion wasn't really powerful, but he was so fast.
Did you ever see the ESPN 30 for 30 on Bo Jackson?
Yes.
Wow.
That was cool.
30 for
And
30.
Oh my
Because
God.
of the hip that he got hurt.
Amazing documentary.
It was
Amazing.
Now he makes arrows.
So it was a documentary just about Bo.
Just about that.
Yeah.
30 for 30.
Do you have Comcast at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on demand,
Okay.
and then go to
30 for 30.
go click sports, and then click. You'll get the ESPN. Click that, and it'll say programming that you see these 30 for 30 documentaries up there. But
they're really good.
there's
I love
amazing.
I love the one about. I'm sorry. I love the one about Jim Valvano with
That was good.
That was really
Marcus Dupree was good. Did you see the one on Marcus Dupree?
No.
Oh my God! Wow. I mean,
I'm trying to remember if Marcus Dupree a basketball player, right?
no football. Marcus Dupree was he was the amazing football player. When he was in 8th grade, he was as big as like a senior. He was the best football player coming out of the South. He signed with Oklahoma, played 2 years for Oklahoma, or maybe even played a year, and then wanted to turn pro, but the NFL wouldn't take underclassmen at then, so he signed with the USFL. Played for the Boston Breakers, tore up his knee, and then boom, out of football, lost all his money, and then after 5 years, caught some inspiration, came back, played for the Los Angeles Rams for 3 or 4 years before he was. on football, but he was out and then made it back.
Just think if he didn't play for the USF. Usually it's like, listen, I might get hurt, so let me play now and try to get all my money.
Yeah.
If he didn't play for the USF, that's about like,
Speaking of which, there was another documentary on who killed the USFL. I mean, there's some amazing documentaries.
It wasn't just the NFL in general.
The history of third leagues is really troubled in America. I think only the AFL and ABA ever really.
That's true.
And only part of their teams made it actually. Just some.
Well, the American
ABA.
There was a franchise in Sacramento.
The American
was one in
There was
Oakland.
the Oakland Invaders.
Yeah.
Well, the ABA.
Baseball.
Oh, well,
In
I was
baseball,
thinking of basketball.
Basketball, yeah, the ABA.
Do you remember the Oakland Oaks?
Oh, yeah.
Rick Barry jumped contract, so he could play for the Oakland Oaks. And
That's when they had the red, white, and blue ball.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I remember that. Okay.
Great one on Julie serving.
I
want to see the one on Bo. Bo was my favorite athlete.
It's a really good one.
Player.
There was I can't find it. I tried to look online. There was a play he made. It was going up a wall, catching it, and
ran on part of the wall, playing for the Kansas City Royals.
No, but the other one I'm thinking of is he goes up on the. Maybe my mind is just playing tricks on me. He goes up, catches it, and on the way down, throws it and a strike to home. How can a guy throw 300 and something feet like while he's already in the air? I can't find it. Bo knows baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He knows football. He knows archery now. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and our guest, Mike Zaidlin. And when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. A baseball team, is behind 5-7 when the other team forfeits. What is the final score? And Mike, I'm really impressed.
Mikey?
You know this one.
Well, yeah, I think it's 9-0.
It is 9-0. I would have thought it would either be the 7-5 score or 1-0, but 9-0. How
and
do
why?
you know
And
that?
why would it be 9-0?
Yeah. Why would it be 9-0? And how many times have you won by the other team forfeiting?
Well, I go into pool halls and I ask that question. It's a second pool.
Yeah.
I have no idea why it would be 9-0 instead of 2-0 or any other score. I don't know. I only know it because I remember that in 1975 the Cleveland Indians had beer night to boost attendance, and they sold beer for like 5 cents a cup. So of course, with predictable results to everyone but Cleveland's management.
Yeah.
Right.
Cleveland drinking? No, come on.
And so they created a riot, and the game was called, and I remember that it was 9-0. That's the only reason I know that.
Okay.
And they outlawed beer night after that. So.
Well, we're only going to give you half credit for the answer.
It's more than I deserve.
Well, my follow-up to that is, what about the stats? It's such a stat game. So if let's just say you went 3 for 4 in the game, does your stat count?
Well, in a general forfeit, what happens to stats? Rather than, because the 9-0, who gets credited for the RBIs for the other 9?
Right.
Runs good question.
I don't know.
Boy.
Where's Marty Lurie when we need him?
Call the commissioner.
Yeah. Well, listen, you knew the answer, so you've got to know that answer too. No, you don't know that one. We're going to veer off for just a minute because we were talking about Bo Jackson and all the kind of fun stuff that we were watching the 30 for 30 program.
ESPN 30 for 30,
Yeah.
a great documentary series.
Yeah, you know what? It was amazing when you watch. If I remember correctly, he got out of football because of the hip injury. But when you watch the hit, specifically, it's not that big a deal. It was just a regular.
He just went down awkward on that tackle when he was playing for the Raiders.
Yeah, going to the outside, which brings me to kind of another point here. Where do you remember like one of the biggest hits last year in college football? I think it was Michigan, where the nose tackle. I don't know if it's nose tackle.
Oh, it's the guy from South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yes. And he just bruised.
Knocked his helmet right off.
It was clean hit.
That was the hit of the year.
Yeah. And now they're saying that
Crowley, I think, is his name.
Clowney.
Yeah.
Now they're saying that hit would he gets suspended and all
that.
But
Yeah.
if you
New
look
rules.
at the hit, it's completely clean. There's no helmet involved, but because he's hitting him at the shoulder pads, it's like where else are you supposed to tackle guys on their toes? I mean, you're not going to get any good stats out of that one except for the running back.
Interesting dynamic, yeah. And guys like Walter Payton, who used his helmet first when he was making contact running to the line, I mean that he could get in trouble for using his
as an offense.
Yeah, using his helmet as a weapon to break free. So
Well, I know that the Oakland Raiders backfield with Tatum and Atkinson couldn't put the hits on people that they put on back then. That's a lot of their hits would have been.
They call me assassin.
Yeah, but
probably it's a good thing.
Getting back to Bo Jackson, I don't know that people know. I mean, he had a horrible speech impediment when he was a kid. He was teased horribly when he was a kid, and so he felt he was really isolated. Really didn't talk much, and then just one day, he just started playing football with the kids, and he could just run faster than anybody else. And he started doing. That's when he started doing the push-ups and the sit-ups every day, because he's legendary for doing 3,000 sit-ups and push-ups every day.
Where do you
Didn't lift weights.
Yeah, how do you have the time to do that?
Well, I was going to say, I remember reading recently that Herschel Walker, who must be 50 or so by now, still does 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 sit-ups a day.
Wow. So. Well, you were also mentioning off air about the fastest 40.
Yeah, I remember. I was just saying that I recently read that the fastest speeds ever in the 40 under the football scouting program, where they test speed every year, I think are still held by Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson, or two of the top 5, I think. So that's pretty amazing.
That's
right. They did it 30 years ago.
Yeah. I love watching films of Deion Jackson. Deion Jackson.
Bo Sanders.
Bo Sanders. Yeah, exactly. Deion Sanders was so fun to watch. I mean, in college it was fine, but watching him in the pros was almost like a man playing with kids.
So one little bit of trivia about Deion. I think he's still the only person in history to hit a home run and score a touchdown in the same week.
Yeah, exactly. And also there was something about the World Series and Super Bowl in the same year too, or something like that. He's the only one who would have done that.
I think that's Deion.
Deion, yeah, exactly. Let's see. I'm going to change subject here for. Oh, actually, we were still talking about jerseys and stuff like that. So they got here. Okay, we were talking Colin Kaepernick, and quarterbacks finished in 4 of the top 5 slots from April 1st to June 30th. Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson finished second to Kaepernick. Again, we're talking about their jerseys for the fans. Followed by Washington Redskins,
Robert Griffin III. It's interesting. You would think Manning. You would think Brady. You would think those guys would be up
they had
there.
Minnesota running back Adrian
Peterson.
And then Peyton Manning in his Denver Broncos uniform. And then they have here among the just drafted rookies. Who would you think would be most popular?
Of the rookies that were just now this past NFL draft.
Yep. How about Manti Te'o?
Oh.
Just don't let girlfriends some girlfriends see you wearing it.
The Phantom Girlfriend. Yeah.
Then there's some other guys who I've never even heard of. Okay, so let me move on here. Yasiel Puig. Did I?
It's kind of cooled off a little bit. Nice, good pronunciation though.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. He's being sued for $12 million by a gentleman in Cuba who claims that Puig made false allegations against him. And they also mentioned about his mother and there being informants in the government and all that kind of stuff. So the lawyer said he's filed similar lawsuits against Cincinnati closer Aroldis Chapman on behalf of different plaintiffs. So I'm thinking, gee, if Yasiel wasn't so popular and had a decent amount of money, how much do you think this lawsuit would be?
Yeah, why wasn't he being sued before he hit 400?
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. That's my question exactly. Okay. Here's another thing. Okay, Will Hill of the New York Giants was suspended again for substance abuse. Now this kid's only 23 years old. And I'm thinking, what is going on with these guys where they know they're going to get caught? And in fact, if I remember correctly, he got nailed like for all of last year, suspended for either multiple games of the whole year. You know
guys are getting bad business advice. I mean, I know it's super competitive. I know one more hit, one more tackle, one more interception, one more home run will, kind of jolt your wallet just a little bit more. But man, I mean, Ryan Braun's going to miss 65 games with no pay. I mean, he'll get along fine. But still, I mean, it's bad advice.
So this was his second drug suspension in 2 years. He was suspended last year for violating the league's performance enhanced drug policy for testing positive for Adderall. And you think, don't these guys ever learn? I mean, I don't know, it's tough. Okay, moving on.
Well, you do take Adderall to kind of pay closer attention. Kind of help your concentration.
Well, we talked about this before. We knew.
I took it right before the show.
Yeah. Rick DeMont was a local here in the Marin County area, and he had won a gold medal in the Olympics, and then it was taken away because he was taking asthma medicine. That was, I mean, who knew that would have cost him a medal? Okay, Dustin Pedroia, is he worth $100 million? He's 30 years old.
He's kind of not the go-to guy, but he's one of the big leaders on that team.
How's the team ever going to recoup that? I mean, it's one thing to go.
Oh, but it's the Red Sox nation. I mean, I would think the radio rights just for the Red Sox alone are more than radio and TV combined for some of these smaller market teams.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, maybe just because he's on
Red Sox will recruit that. I mean, without even sweating.
$100 million?
Not even sweating.
Well, I think the Red Sox payroll is probably around $150 million.
They're always paying the luxury tax. I mean, they just know that going in.
Yeah, that's part of their budget. I mean,
what are they turning into the Yankees?
Yeah, they're always over. The Yankees are always over. I mean, they don't care.
And they're still what place are they in now?
When they've got that brand new park. No, just kidding.
Yeah, built in 1912, right? Fenway. Are they still doing the score and still doing it manually, isn't it?
Yeah, Ty Cobb's out there changing.
Yeah, then you have the Oakland A's just laughing all the way to the bank, closing in on 60 some odd wins for the year, so.
Yeah.
What's the deal?
With their payroll, $55 million.
They always seem to have a low payroll,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a team nobody seems to know. And
best team nobody knows.
That's what you said in
Oakland
the
A's.
past.
If only the Tigers weren't in the American League, they could go to the World Series. But it's going to be tough. The Tigers are monsters.
Yeah,
but now Cabrera.
A's are right there. Cabrera's hurt.
He's hurt now. So I wonder what's going to happen there. And I don't know. I think Prince Fielder personally, I think he's kind of overrated.
No.
He reminds me of Ryan Howard, where they're a little bit too big and stocky.
Yeah, but he's a much better hitter than Ryan Howard.
Yeah.
Ryan Howard has really fallen off the table. But Prince Fielder is still having an All-Star year, except for the playoffs last year.
Hit a triple in the All-Star game.
He's a solid player. Yeah.
Big fella.
I think he's still huffing and puffing over that one.
Mm-hmm.
But they've also got Verlander and Scherzer and Pfister and all the whole
pitching staff.
And Hunter, and Austin Jackson. It's a pretty solid team.
I know chicks dig the long ball, but pitching, that's where it's at. You got good pitching.
That's the Giants.
Yep. That's where it's at. It make you or break you.
Well, yeah, Timmy didn't do so good, did he?
What happened?
Oh, the other night? Oh, my gosh. Well,
how do you go from no-hitter
coming off
to
a no-hitter to getting just roughed up?
Well, they said something about it was like the first time since the early 1900s or something that someone pitched a no-hitter and then gave up 8 runs.
But I don't want to put it all on them because that team is a defensive liability right now. I mean, they just can't play defense. Just can't do it.
Is it Pablo? Is he just kind of crazy?
Well, they all have their. I mean, there's issues in the outfield, infield. It's all across the board.
Well, did you catch the game 2 days ago where Buster Posey was thrown out of the plate when they were behind?
Oh yeah.
Nobody out.
Oh no! What drove me crazy was
Suki?
Tamaki or something. Where Ebi Tamaki? No, I'm just kidding. He runs down, gets first base, ball gets away, but he makes the turn, and he's not very fast. And because he ran so far past Tanaka, there you go, that he gets thrown out like easily at second base on a rally. You just don't do that. Okay, we're going to cut to our third commercial break here. Here's kind of interesting. We don't see this baseball rule too often. If a fielder deliberately touches a ball with detached equipment, right, what happens to the runner? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. I can see a couple of blank stares here.
Ask the question again.
Okay.
I have to hear it again.
All right. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. If a fielder deliberately touches a fair ball with detached equipment, which I guess what they're thinking of is, the catcher throws his mask in a ball, or an outfielder throws his glove up, right? That's detached equipment. What happens to the runner? Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial, because when we come back, we're going to answer this question, and we'll come back with some thoughts for the day. And you're listening to Sports Econ 101. You guys can't see. Can't see that.
Wow.
Tough one, huh?
I've never seen anybody really.
I'm going to guess.
But it can't be deliberate.
Deliberately does.
Deliberate, yeah, because if you go up
Sure.
with this
Oh,
long,
yeah.
then you consider that deliberate.
I would guess.
I guess the runner's safe. Maybe awarded an extra base. I don't know.
I would think an extra base.
Okay, let me get this. Let me save this
Because if it's a sure home run, you take your glove off and throw it.
here. Yeah.
That
would be
knocks
I think a lot of
that
yeah.
knocks the trajectory of the ball,
Sure.
and then somehow some other guy catches it. That you can't.
That would be the equivalent of goaltending.
Right.
I gotta say that this happened to us in softball one time. Guy on third base. My brother was playing like first base, and I'm playing left field. Ball comes, and our center fielder. I apologize. We were at bat. Okay, so our runner was on third base.
Okay.
Ball comes to the center fielder, and he like hits it, and he's going like this. He's catching like this. Our guy tags up, and then finally he gets control, and then he throws, and then they tried to go back to third base. He left too early, and there was this what is it? And we figured out. My brother's really smart. He thinks of these things. He goes, no. He goes, as soon as the glove touches it, that's when you can tag out. Wow. Otherwise, think about it. What you do is you're way on the outfield. You just gotta go like this and run it all the way to the infield.
You know how the Giants game ended like a couple days ago? The guy went up and to grab a sure home run, and his glove popped up in the air, and he was able to catch it.
Yeah.
And the guy was out.
Okay.
Well, the runner was out.
Well, was there a runner, or was that the final out of the game?
That was the final out of the game.
Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the guy leading early from third base.
Oh.
Right, because otherwise you just keep tag going like this with the ball all the way till you get close enough to where go ahead now try to.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a crazy one. Up until the 50s, there was what a lot of players would do on third if they were tagging up to score. They would get behind the base and get a running start so that they crossed third base by the time the ball was and had momentum, and they stopped them in the 50s from doing that because only a few players were really going to do that. I mean, it takes a sense of timing and speed, but you could do that. You could get a running start.
You could walk past third and just and then boom.
Okay,
wow.
Get this, and this one you'd have to be really. I mean, who thinks about this until story time?
How many beers have to be consumed before you start thinking about this kind of stuff?
Okay, well, and I don't remember. It was a guy who used to play for Brooklyn back in the 40s and 50s. He played center field, and what he said he used to do, run around third. What he used to do is he'd go like this, and then he'd drop his glove way down and let the ball count like that, because the runner would kind of think that he's going to catch it and he'd tag up, but he wouldn't. He'd wait.
Little okey doke.
And then get up at third base. That's legal. Right, because you're not touching the ball. All you do is just wait. But I mean, who thinks of that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking that you just get as soon as you can. Same thing with the guys. They run back, right? Ball's coming, then they run up to catch it to get a running start. A lot of guys don't do that.
Couldn't a first on a mock throw to first? Couldn't a first baseman just take pound his glove like he caught it?
Well,
and then,
you're not supposed to.
Or is that bush league? Okay.
That you're not allowed to fake.
No hidden ball tricks.
Well, you do hidden ball, but you can't if you don't have the ball, though you can't you're not supposed to be able to like this. But they did that in the World Series. Lonnie Smith got called out. And actually, what happened was the second baseman
Chuck
Dallock. Yeah, basically it kind of like this, but he didn't fake a tag, and that's why they let it go. But if Lonnie Smith slid into second, even though the ball was way away, and they would have won the game when you continue on. Very cool. Okay, anything you guys want to cover? I have just my little thoughts at the very end. We only have...
We're at the end already?
We do.
Too much fun.
Jiminy crickets.
Let's do it all over again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I think I got a little thing on the good old lefty here. Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Vern Glenn and our guest Mike Zaidlin. When we cut to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question. If a fielder, we're talking baseball again, rules of baseball, if a fielder deliberately touches a fair ball with detached equipment, like catcher's mask or throwing your glove up without it being attached to your arm, what happens to the runner?
I'm just pure guess, Mike. I'm going to say the runner's safe, and given the situation, maybe the runner's awarded an extra base. What do you think, Mike?
I think because of the potential that on a home run ball you could throw your glove all the way up in the air to stop it, that they would probably say, and that rule has to cover that situation too, that the batter scores.
They say he gets 3 bases.
3 bases.
Three bases.
3 bases. Yeah. So I guess they give him a triple.
So it's probably worth it to throw your glove up when a ball is going to be a home run.
yeah.
Yeah, if nobody's on.
That's true. That's a good point. If you could,
ball's going out of the park.
They say the question does say if you do it deliberately.
Now, players, don't try this at home.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, before we cut out of here, I got one quick thing here. Good old lefty.
Oh, Phil Mickelson. Wow, what a great victory for him.
Can you imagine 566?
I think he may be calling it his greatest victory.
Certainly
calling it his greatest final round.
Well, now they're talking about he suddenly rises to the conversation of one of the game's all-time greatest players.
Well, it vaulted him to number 2 in the world, right behind Tiger, who all of a sudden, I guess, can't close. So
that's true.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how one performance like that can really just make a huge difference. Okay, guys.
I got a great story about him. We can save that.
We're going to save that for another time here. I want to thank my co-host, Vern Glenn, and our guest, Mike Zaidlin, for all the great sports memorabilia and other great questions. Thoughts for the day. Actually, these are quotes for the day. Spider Lockhart, a defensive back for the New York Giants, said the only way to stop Jim Brown was to give him a movie contract. That's how good he was. And if 75% of all accidents happen within 5 miles of home, why not move 10 miles away?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to discuss sports topics from a business perspective and give away more vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening, and check out our sponsor, IRAServices.com. And on behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week. So long. And that's a wrap. Good job, guys.
All right.